Okay, I'm a story guy. Some of you probably already know that. But I love TV shows, I love movies, I love books. Anything that captivates a really good story, I'm in love with. There's some stories out there that just hit so close to home. They're so dear to me, right? Now, I am a living, breathing story right now, and so are you. Granted, I've never slayed a dragon or rescued a princess, but I did have to fight some battles in my life. Some battles that I felt like I wasn't equipped for. But then there's this saying that keeps popping into my head: God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. Now, I first heard this saying when I was a camp counselor 2 summers ago. And the thing was, is that I didn't feel like I was equipped for a camp counselor. I didn't know what the parameters of that job entailed, but I did feel called to do it. And so I went there, and this camp was huge. About 100 or so kids would come in every week. It would be a rotating, just new kids, new stories, and stuff like that. And that's why I loved it. Like each week was different from the last, and so you had different kids coming in with different stories and different backgrounds and all this stuff. It was great. Now, I have a lot of stories from that summer camp counselor job. But you know what else has a lot of stories? The Bible. And I really want to emphasize this point. He doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. You see, I didn't feel equipped for what I'm doing here right now at this base, as what we do here in this base. But God called me here. And I want to honor that calling that He's put on my life. There's a lot of stories in the Bible where people have felt ill equipped for the calling that God has put on their lives. One of those people is Moses in Exodus 3. Now, in Exodus 3, Moses is just minding his own business when all of a sudden there's a burning bush in front of him. And then God speaks from that burning bush, although it is not burning up. And He says in verse 10, "And now come, and I will send you to Pharaoh, so that you may bring my people, the sons of Israel, out of Egypt." Now, that's a big ask. And I bet Moses was like, now it doesn't say exactly what Moses was thinking, but we can probably tell based on verse 11 when Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the sons of Israel out of Egypt?" See, Moses thought little of himself. He didn't see what God saw in him. But as we know from the story of David, man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. I bet some of us look at our appearances before we look at our callings. Now, Moses was pretty old at this point, and I bet he was thinking about his age and his physical disabilities. But also remember, he killed someone before this as well. So, although the Ten Commandments were not written at this point, murder was still wrong. Like I said, he probably thought little of himself. That's just like it for us sometimes, too. Now, when I was young, I was in theater, and I did a fairly good job, if I do say so myself. Now, when the show or concert or play was over, people would come up to me and say, "Wow, good job! You did great, and you were awesome on stage." But there was that one person who said, "You could have done a little bit better." That thought would stay with me for days after the show, right? And everybody said good things about my performance, but that one person, that one comment, "You could have done better," is now the only thing I hear in my head. Now, why is that? Why do I only think about that? Because that is exactly how the enemy attacks us. See, he uses that one bad comment to make you doubt yourself, just like Moses. Then Moses said, "What if they will not believe me or listen to what I say? For they may say, 'The Lord has not appeared to you.'" The Lord said to him, "What is in your hand?" And he said, "A staff." Then he said, "Throw it on the ground." So he threw it on the ground, and it turned into a serpent. And Moses fled from it. But the Lord said to Moses, "Reach out your hand and grasp it by its tail." So he reached out with his hand and caught it, and it turned into a staff in his hand, so that they may believe the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. See, God saw the doubt in Moses, so he gave him a sign by turning his staff into a snake. And just a little later, he gave his hand leprosy and healed it right in front of his eyes. See, Moses didn't ask for a sign, but God gave him one, because of his doubt. You know who else had doubts about the calling that God has put on their life? Gideon, just like in Judges 6:12. See, Gideon was the least in his clan, the least in his family. Well, at least that's how he saw himself. But you know what the Lord said to him in verse 12? Mighty hero, the Lord is with you. Mighty hero? Lord, I don't even have the strength of one. I don't even feel like one. Right after God has called Gideon a mighty hero, he starts complaining. A couple verses of just him complaining about God, complaining to God, right? But then in verse 17, he says to God, if you are truly going to help me, show me a sign and prove to me that this is you who's speaking to me. Have any of you guys asked for a sign from God? It could be about a new car. It could be about a new job. It could even be about a relationship that you're trying to pursue. Even after Gideon obeyed and took down the altar to Baal, and after he was clothed with the power, he still asked for a sign. See, he asked for the sign of the fleece, to be wet in the morning and then turn around and ask for the opposite to happen. See, Gideon, even in his calling, still had doubts. Why else would he ask for a sign? See, God met him in his doubt, just like he'll meet you in yours. It says in Hebrews 13:8, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. Since God is the same God who said to Gideon, mighty hero, he's the same God who's calling out the potential in you. God sees power in you, even when you feel powerless. You know what Gideon was doing when God called him? Hiding in a wine press. Are some of you hiding from the calling that God has put on your life? The why of what I'm doing is simple. I want to honor the calling that God has put on my life. You see, I knew that staying home for me wasn't an option anymore. I was getting stuck in some old habits over and over and over again. I needed change in my life. And just like one of my favorite characters in the Bible, I heard the words that Jesus spoke to them before he changed their lives. Follow me. That person is Simon Peter, who was a fisherman and fishing when Jesus called him, right? And Jesus said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. And he left everything, immediately left everything to follow Jesus. And that's incredible, right? After he said, follow me, he didn't tell them where he was going or what they were doing. He simply just wanted them to obey. And they did. And sometimes God doesn't give us all the details on when he says to follow me. He just wants you to follow him. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for prosperity and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. So with that being said, you know that when he says, follow me, he's not going to take you into disaster. In the Gospel of Luke, it adds a little bit more to the story of Simon Peter. And Simon Peter falls down at the feet of Jesus and said, depart from me, for I am a sinful man. But God already knew that. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. But he still called him. Your calling could be to go preach the gospel to non-believers on the other side of the world. Your calling could be being the best parent to your kids. Your calling could even be being the best worker at Walmart for the rest of your life. So, what's your calling? Where is God leading you? You might not be ready, but God sees that you are. And just like Moses and Gideon, God sees you're ready even through your doubt. God could be calling you a mighty warrior. It could be asking you to come out of hiding. But it's going to come down to a choice. What will you do after God says, follow me? Those are two small words, but your response is big and life-changing. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been a blast just talking about the Bible with you all and whoever is listening. So I just want to say thank you guys so much and peace.